This video is brought to you by Exploding Minions, a new card game from Exploding Kittens. Get it now at explodingkittens.com. Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 fictional languages.
Koekvedlich a toekbedge. Ich lach Joey.
Hey, EWOKESE.
Monsieur, Admiral Kovishin Engam bitte.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we'll be looking at the best fictional languages in mass media, be it from books, movies, or games. Which fictional language would you learn? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20, Nadsat, A Clockwork Orange. Anthony Burgess' classic 1962 novel depicts a dystopian world where teen gang violence runs rampant. A linguist, Burgess crafted a unique argot called Nadsat, a type of slang used by the Droogs.
Thou globby bottle of cheap, stinking chip oil!
Nadsat incorporates elements of Russian, Cockney, and German, among various other influences. Burgess's goal was to create a group-specific language that could be timeless, as slang naturally morphs as cultures change.
The Durango 95 purred away real horror show. A nice, warm, vibraty feeling all through your gutty woods.
Stanley Kubrick's adaptation trickles Nadsat phrases into the character's dialogue, although it's nowhere near as prominent as in the book. This slang helps emphasize Alex and the Droogs' antisocial behavior, creating a wall between the sociopathic teens and everyone else.
Oh, the old Moloko Plus first, would you not say? Something to sharpen us up.
Some of the Moloko Plus.
Number 19, Parseltongue, Harry Potter franchise. Yes, Harry the Snake can understand you. Thanks. A precious few wizards and witches in the Harry Potter universe are gifted with Parseltongue, a skill that allows them to communicate with serpents. In the books, Parseltongue generally takes the form of hissing, since most people cannot understand it and will probably not even notice it. The film opted for a more cinematic and ear-catching approach, giving the language a unique and identifiable sound. As this skill is associated with the likes of Voldemort, and the wizarding community is not free of prejudice, Parseltongue tends to attract a negative reaction. Number 18, CYBERTRONIAN Languages, Transformers franchise. Be it the comics, cartoons, games, or live-action movies, Transformers typically stick to English, even when on Cybertron and there are no humans to be found.
We must reach them if we hope to survive.
Optimus, this is our home. We have to fight for it.
Throughout the franchise's history, glimpses have been provided of different languages that have been used by the Transformers, primarily the form of glyphs and background data.
It's covered with inscriptions. Too bad none of us reads ancient Autobot.
2007's Transformers movie gave sound to this language, with the Decepticons communicating with each other in what is presumably a form of Cybertronian. To the human ear, the live-action Cybertronian is indecipherable, a blend of futuristic-sounding noises that are near impossible for a non-transformer to verbally replicate. Number 17, Atlantean, Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Disney's often forgotten 2001 epic blends science fiction and fantasy, but there's also an element of history there.
A Senec top.
For Atlantis, the Lost Empire, an Atlantean language was created, one that could be spoken and also written.
That's because it's been written in a dialect that no longer exists.
Oh, it's useless.
No, just difficult. I spent my whole life studying dead languages.
As a root dialect, Atlantean incorporates common aspects from many different languages, which kind of explains why Atlantis' natives can speak French and English.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, monsieur.
They speak my language. Pardon, mademoiselle. Voulez-vous...
Atlantean's writing system, which can be seen through glyphs and in the Shepherd's Journal, harbours back to ancient dialects. Atlantis, the Lost Empire, revolves around preserving a shrinking culture, and that goes into the language that only Atlanteans and Milo can speak. Number 16, Lapine, Watership Down franchise. Richard Adams' complex Watership Down follows anthropomorphic rabbits seeking to survive after their home's destruction. As the animals have a well-developed culture, a language was created to bring to life the unique experiences and perspectives of the rabbits.
Frith made all the animals and birds, and at first made them all the same. Now among the animals was Elachera, the Prince of Rabbits.
Lapine primarily boils down to a handful of choice words, many of which sound oddly natural despite being made up. Watership Down is a harrowing tale that warps its cartoonish setting into something that feels real.
Who knows what kind of allele they have command of now?
The language plays a crucial part in bringing to life the rabbits, establishing them as a defined society with history, norms, and beliefs.
Hazel Ra!
Number 15, CITYSPEAK Blade Runner franchise. Blade Runner envisions a future driven by mega corporations, and Ridley Scott's movie has served as something of a blueprint for many subsequent cyberpunk settings. In this alternate universe, Los Angeles has become a fusion of cultures, most of which are just shallow imitations of what they used to be. CITYSPEAK personifies this amalgamation, as the street language combines Japanese, French, Hungarian, German, Spanish, and Chinese.
Hey, EWOKESE.
Monsieur, Admiral Kovachin Engam Bitte.
When preparing for his role as Gaff in the original Blade Runner, Edward James Olmos used his background in different languages to come up with CITYSPEAK.
His new dish. Retired.
Number 14, GOA'ULD, Stargate franchise. Sampled in the 1994 movie before being expanded upon further in the subsequent series, GOA'ULD is the language spoken by, well, the GOA'ULD, a parasitic race with a nasty track record of destroying worlds who do not submit.
Elnoctilk. Kilchak. Renounce Apophis as a false god and join us in our deliverance of this world, and I will spare you.
This language reflects the GOA'ULD history and nature, as it's believed to be based on the mother tongue of the Unas, the first race to fall victim to the parasites.
Loko Harak Shamel.
When it comes to humanity, this language inspired ancient Egyptian, and is also spoken by the Jaffa, who were humans enslaved by the GOA'ULD.
You challenge me. Zoma Seku! Very well.
Number 13, Newspeak, 1984. Language is powerful and in the wrong hands, dangerous. George Orwell's 1984 presents one of the most sinister examples of a fictional language, as Newspeak is designed entirely to shape and limit the freedom of Oceania's people. In the book, INGSOC, the English Socialist Party, is still in the process of perfecting Newspeak, but its impact can already be seen.
Double plus good, eh?
Once complete, Newspeak will feature a lexicon with a tiny selection of simple words that leave no room for interpretation or critical analysis.
It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words.
Basically, Newspeak is a form of mind control, and it's effective.
Double plus good.
Number 12, Valyrian, Game of Thrones. Serving as something of a stand-in for the Roman Empire in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe, the Valyrian freehold's influence can still be felt hundreds of years after its collapse. While touched upon in the books, HBO's Game of Thrones adaptation created a functional High Valyrian language, introducing it in Season 3.
Valar Morghulis.
Valadohairis. Olvivelti ruloro kelbrian and desundao.
High Valyrian doesn't have much of a use in modern Essos or Westeros, and is generally only spoken by scholars and some nobles. Similar to Latin, High Valyrian influenced future languages and dialects that are collectively known as Low Valyrian.
Yelrit. Pogatas matas rang yel sherawa.
Skamahov. Keshe krajwav.
Yel mizos lewash. Antashikosh pashkesh.
Number 11, the Divine Language, the fifth element. Known as the Divine Language, Mondoshoan is spoken by Lilu throughout the fifth element. Developed by Luc Besson and consisting of a few hundred words, the director and Mila Jovovich were the only two people who could speak the language on set.
What's she saying? I don't know. Activate the phonic detector.
By the end of filming, Besson and Jovovich grew quite fluent, being able to even write letters in the language. In-universe, the Divine Language is associated with the Mondoshoan race and is said to have been spoken before time was time.
But war is coming. Stone's not safe on Earth anymore.
It might sound like Lilu is speaking gibberish, but every word means something. Number 10, Simlish, Sim franchise. Often a fictional language is created to increase immersion, but sometimes it can serve a different purpose. EA's The Sims franchise simulates life, so the Sims need to be able to speak in the games. However, since the developer can only record a finite amount of voice lines, things would eventually get repetitive.
Mifwa. Varu. Neebs.
As a response to this, Simlish was created so that the Sims would not be endlessly spewing out the same lines in English.
You know, tune in, I'm Link.
Simlish, which traces back to 1996's Simcopter, has become a staple of the Sim brand.
Oh, Barai Flyma. Shippy shippy. Jifangao.
Number 9, ULAM, Quest for Fire. Set in prehistoric times, Quest for Fire follows the ULAM tribe's attempt to protect and then retrieve its flame. Anthony Burgess of A Clockwork Orange fame was brought in to craft a language for the tribe, one that would go beyond the cartoonish grunts typically associated with cavemen. The ULAM speak in mostly brief phrases accompanied by physical gestures, allowing the language to purposefully come across as strained and primitive. The ULAM do not use speech as their primary source of communication, and the language differs depending on the tribe. Despite seeming rather simple, ULAM is a complex language. Number 8, Minionese Despicable Me franchise. Gru's hijinks-driven minions have outgrown the Despicable Me movies, and their cute language is one of the reasons why. MINIONESE generally takes phrases from real languages like English, Spanish, or even Chinese, and adds a few unique touches to give them a marketable edge.
Listen to me, read my lips. Lisa mi lipo. Pomodoro la kumquit.
The result is a language that flows well because it doesn't sound too foreign to the ear and usually makes sense within the context of a scene. Minions are adorable and easily amused creatures, and their language resembles a toddler who's just learning to express themselves. Number 7. DOVAHZUL, the Elder Scrolls franchise. In this case, language is literally power. Introduced in 2011's Skyrim, DOVAHZUL is the language of the dragons. As dragons became less prominent, DOVAHZUL diminished in relevance, although a few people are still able to speak it. The coolest feature about the dragon language is that learning certain 3-word phrases unlocks powers called shouts, which there are now over 20 of in Skyrim. It's even possible to learn to speak the language. Granted, you won't be able to unleash your very own Fus Rodar unless you're Dragonborn. Them's the rules. Number 6. Black Speech, the Lord of the Rings franchise. Tolkien pretty much wrote the book on crafting fictional languages, with more than a few showing up in Middle-earth. While not the most commonly heard or fully developed language in the Lord of the Rings universe, Black Speech sealed its legacy through the inscription on the One Ring.
The language is that of Mordor.
Black Speech contrasts well with the other languages created by Tolkien, including Elvish and the dwarves' language of Khuz'dul. Although pure Black Speech is mostly limited to 2 lines, some Orcish dialects are partially derived from it. Peter Jackson's movies adopted an interpretation of Black Speech, one that sought to incorporate Tolkien's initial vision for the language. Number 5. Dothraki, Game of Thrones. Like the other languages on HBO's Game of Thrones, Dothraki was developed by David J. Peterson, who expanded on the glimpses provided by George R.R. Martin in the books. Over the show's run, the language grew to contain thousands of words, all of which are designed to reflect the Dothraki's culture, customs, and everyday lives. Dothraki words like Khaleesi have become ingrained into pop culture, and the series does a great job of showing Dany's gradual adoption of the language. Considering it started as a few loose phrases, the fact Game of Thrones transformed Dothraki into a functional language is nothing short of impressive. Number 4. EWOKESE Star Wars franchise. Return of the Jedi marked the debut of the Ewoks. tribal bears who prove to be cute and controversial in equal measure.
It's good at the Eat it.
Hey! Don't.
Rather than creating a language from scratch, Star Wars looked to real life when creating EWOKESE, especially East Asia. Kalmyk was one of the biggest influences on EWOKESE, as the actors would repeat phrases from the language to create an alien-sounding dialect, at least to Western ears. As such, there are only a handful of official EWOKESE phrases, although the vocabulary does increase considerably if the expanded universe is taken into account. And don't get us started on the intricacies of Huttese. Number 3. Na'vi. Avatar. For Avatar, James Cameron wanted to create a language for the Na'vi people, an undertaking that was accepted by American professor Paul Frommer. The fictional language had to strike the sweet spot of sounding entirely alien, but also being relatively easy to learn and pronounce, both for the in-universe human characters and the actors.
Alveut ario hengaya. Now masatnok lurtok siveyi.
Tuntivam. Elitingian iskepeklu.
Zisito amurftolia ohe.
Growing to more than 2,000 words, Na'vi has well-established syntax and rules, making it one of the most complete fictional languages in film. With more Avatar movies in the works, the Na'vi language has continued to grow with each passing year, expanding along with the franchise. Number 2. Klingon, Star Trek franchise. How many fictional languages can claim to have multiple dictionaries, an opera, and even an institute dedicated to them? The Klingon's official language made its debut in 1979's Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the same movie that also expanded on Vulcan. Klingon was developed into a structured language for 1984's The Search for Spock by Mark Okrand. Designed to be difficult to speak, Klingon is emphatically alien-sounding and uniquely combines aspects of human languages. Among fictional languages, Klingon is one of the most commonly learned, serving as a testament to Star Trek's enduring popularity and influence. Number 1. Elvish, the Lord of the Rings franchise. Tolkien's fascination with languages served as the backbone of Middle-earth, and Elvish was one of the author's magnum opus in this area. As elves are a diverse race, Elvish refers to multiple languages, with Quenya and Sindarin being the most fully developed. Quenya is associated with the High Elves. While Sindarin is the more common tongue used by the Sindar.
Aragorn and Dunedain. Istanenle Amen.
So much for the legendary courtesy of the elves. Speak words we can all understand.
Tolkien used Elvish to explore how language develops across time, and this project started long before The Lord of the Rings or even The Hobbit were published. Peter Jackson's movies adapted Tolkien's dialects, further cementing Elvish as iconic fictional languages. If you speak the language of exciting gameplay, then we've got just the game for you. This video is brought to you by Exploding Minions, a new card game from Exploding Kittens. Get it now at explodingkittens.com.